Right, I'm back. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened there. Yeah, I've not had a great week when it comes to technology, whether it's been emails or anything else. So I'm now live again. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to see the questions though. So let me just work this out. Oh, goodness me. Sorry about that, everyone. Okay, let's just keep going. I'll just keep talking and we'll work out as we go along. I've switched from my laptop to my phone. Maybe that will help. I don't know. So basically what I was talking you through is for the first 2 to 3, 4 weeks, your baby will be very, very sleepy. They'll have lots of melatonin and hopefully you'll have to wake them to feed. If not, they might do a bit of cluster feeding in the evening and things like that. But generally speaking, for the first few weeks, babies are often very, very sleepy. Then what you'll start to see happen is between about 2 and 4 weeks or so, your baby will become more alert. Okay, so they will start doing things like being awake for a couple of hours, maybe in the middle of the night time, or just generally looking around more and seeming like they're paying more attention to life. Now, when this starts to happen, what we want to do is we want to start basically reversing day and night for them because they don't know. Thank you, Lorraine, for letting me know much better. Phew. I think there must be something about laptops. It worked last night, but anyway. We want to start reversing day and night for them. So like I was saying, if any of you heard me on the first live, what tends to happen is because you have been walking around, babies inside you, during the daytime, they're actually really sleepy because they're used to movement. Whereas when you've been laying flat in bed at night time, they are used to being a bit more awake. So they actually come out almost with their day and night reversed. Okay, so what we want to start to do is reverse that back for them. So when you're ready, obviously enjoy, like I was saying, enjoy the first couple of weeks, have skin to skin, do loads of cuddles, let them sleep with you or on you, whatever you prefer. If you want to know about safe sleep guidelines, so how to do things like co-sleep and such forth, then you can go to the Lullaby Trust guidelines. If you look those up on your internet browser, so Lullaby Trust guidelines, you can have a look at safe sleeping positions, etc. But once you've passed those first few weeks of sleepiness, it's quite nice to start teaching them the difference between day and night. And sometimes for some of my clients, that can solve them being awake for hours at night time because they suddenly realise, oh, but they've been sleeping all day long. Okay, so what I would suggest is that if your baby is still very sleepy in the daytime, try where possible to wake them, depending on what their birth weight is, assuming they've gone back up to birth weight though and they're doing well, wake them every couple of hours, so 2.5 to 3 hours, so that they get used to feeding lots and being more awake in the daytime. So hopefully they should start to then sort of sleep for longer periods at night time, at least not be quite so wakeful. Obviously they're still super little, so we're not expecting any magic overnight just yet, but what we are trying to do is reverse their day and night for them. So in the daytime it would be things like, you know, lights on or expose them to lots of outside natural light. If you're having a baby in the summer now, it's really nice because obviously sort of with lockdown it's a bit more tricky, but you can go outside where possible and you can expose them to lots of lovely light in the day. And then at night time, keeping it really sort of calm and dark for them. Okay, and that might well mean doing things like trying not to have your phone light too close to them, because your phone light is like a very white blue light and that's not good for producing melatonin, our sleep hormone, which we need to sleep. So try and invest if you can in one of those very sort of orangey glow feeding lamps, the dimmer lamps that you can get. They're really, really, really good. If you want to use your phone, it's fine. And obviously you will spend some time on your phone, but you want to try and, I used to turn mine upside down so the light shone into the pillow and therefore it sort of created more of a glow than an actual sort of bright white light, because that can obviously wake them up more. So have a think about that. So reversing day and night basically. Now, one of the questions I often get asked is, does that mean that they should do their daytime naps in a daytime environment or a daytime nap in a nighttime environment? What I would suggest is up until about 6 to 8 weeks, it doesn't really matter. And when they're sleeping, generally their sleep is quite deep. So they will, well, I'll come on to that later, it's not completely deep, but when they're very, very little, not a huge amount will wake them. So you can have them quite easily in your kitchen with a toddler running around and a newborn baby wouldn't wake up. A 12-week-old, however, is a different story. Okay, so you're totally fine to have them with you wherever you want, and actually they do suggest that baby is with you anyway for that first sort of 6 months. So if you want to have them in your kitchen to sleep, that's totally fine. If you want to have them in your living room with you, that's totally fine too. There will become a point though for all babies where they'll actually stop sleeping quite so well if they are in the middle of the kitchen with the toddler running around or dad banging around trying to cook dinner or something like that. And that is normally around about the sort of 8 to 12 week mark. And when that starts to happen, at that point, it is quite good to start thinking about maybe you could take them to another room and have a nap with them so that it's a bit darker and a bit quieter. Maybe you can invest in, I'm not entirely sure if snooze shade are in the baby show, but those snooze shades that go over the prams to make it a little bit darker too. And perhaps also think about some white noise. So white noise is really brilliant because it basically, when you play it for a baby, it feels like they're in the womb because there's lots of whooshing of the placenta and all of our different sort of internal body systems that we've got going on. There's lots of just general noise when they are in the womb. So when they come out, it's quite nice and they feel quite comforted to have that sort of noise. So if you can invest in some white noise and a snooze shade if you want to use the pram, or just go and have a nap with your baby in another room, you'll probably find that they'll start to sleep a lot better at that age. Now, it's totally up to you as to what you want to do in terms of moving forwards with daytime naps. Obviously, you might think about setting up a monitor so that you can put them down for a nap and then leave the room. There's a sort of, loads of different ways of doing things, and I think it's very, very much down to you. I have some clients who say to me, Heidi, I just don't want to leave the room. I've still got let's say 3.5 month old, and I don't want to leave them at all, and I want to nap with them, and that's absolutely totally fine. If you're saying to me, actually, do you know what, Heidi, I really want to be able to go and have lunch and put them in sort of their nursery for their nap, then that's fine too. Obviously, I would just recommend that you have a monitor set up, and sometimes you can get some of these breathing monitors. If you're using one of those too, then obviously that's great. So thinking about where they're going to start doing their naps, because around about that 8-week mark, they will sleep a lot less well if they're in a noisy environment with you. Okay, so you might want to start establishing daytime naps in what we call their nursery, whether that's your bedroom, which it probably will be, because obviously you'll be sleeping with them for those first few months at least. So it's thinking about teaching them day and night. For the first 6 to 8 weeks, keeping them with you in the day, that's totally fine. But after that point where you start to find actually they're not napping so well anymore, perhaps you do then need to start doing their daytime naps in a sort of slightly darker environment, maybe with some white noise. Okay, so it's reversing day and night for them, because they will come out quite nocturnal, which is fine for a few weeks, and then when you get tired, it's less ideal. So thinking about reversing day and night for them. The second thing you can start to do, and this is as and when you feel ready, okay, because if you do it too early, you're not going to stick to it and it's not going to work. So it's as and when you feel ready, you can start a very, very gentle bedtime routine. And what I mean by this is basically starting to choose a time that you put your baby to bed every evening, whether that's 7 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock, it doesn't matter what the time is, but sometime in the early evening, babies in particular, are more sleepy in the evening, so they have more melatonin, which allows them to fall asleep more easily at sort of 6:30, 7:30. So ideally, if we tap into that and we go, right, I know they're going to be really sleepy then, so let's get them down to bed and let's start a nice gentle bedtime routine. That will be something like go up for a bath, maybe not every night, particularly in London, obviously the water's quite hard, so you don't have to be doing it every night, but a bath or a massage or something that signals the start of bedtime for them. What you'll then do is you will go into their bedroom or your bedroom, depending on where they're sleeping, and you will dress them in their pyjamas, and you will probably feed them because there's a feed due before they go to bed, and then you will obviously put them down to sleep. But what we're establishing here is a really nice gentle routine, so that when they get a little bit older, they start to understand. If you say bath time, they'll know bath time means pyjama time, means feed time, means sleep time, and they'll start to learn that process and that routine, and that will set them up so that wherever you go, if you do their bedtime routine nicely, they will stick with it and they will still go to sleep. Even if, let's say, you go to grandma's house, let's say we're kind of not in lockdown in 2 months' time or something, we can actually visit friends and family. It actually makes them easier to settle in different places too. So I've actually just done a podcast on this, but a lot of people will worry about routines and they think it means that you can't be flexible, you can't go places, you can't, I don't know, pop to granny's or do something because you have a routine. The reality for me is that routines are actually really flexible, and I believe that they actually make a child sleep better in different environments because they know what's coming. Okay, I'm just going to check, are there any questions? Is it just because I can't see them, Or have we got any questions coming up? Let me just quickly look. I don't want to go again. So all I've got here is the last message was Patricia saying better. So if anyone has any questions, do just ping them through. Otherwise, I'll just keep talking for you. So we've talked about sort of reversing day and night for them. And we've talked about introducing a bit of a bedtime routine, including maybe a bath and a massage and a nice feed. Okay, and that's really as much as you need to do in the very beginning. Okay, here come the questions. Great. It's totally up to you as to when you start a sort of proper routine, as in a daytime routine as well as an evening routine. I have clients that come to me with 6-week-olds and they're desperate for some structure and they really need a routine. It is possible from 6 weeks. They're not going to fall into it overnight. It's definitely possible though. I have other clients who at 4 or 5 months are coming to me and saying, Heidi, it's been a long 4 or 5 months. I now need to get into a routine. So the whole routine thing is totally dependent on you, and I don't think there's any right or wrong time. I just think it's all about when you're ready, and some people never want a routine, and that's also totally fine too. Okay, so it's really, really important that you do what works best for you only. Okay, forget about the WhatsApp group, the NCT group. That's all fine and that's all great that you're supporting each other, but please don't compare your babies, because you're all very different. Your parenting styles will be very different and your babies will be really, really different too. What I then start doing with my babies that come to me who are between about 3 and 4 months is slowly start to set up a nice daytime routine for them. And it will look something like a 3-hourly routine in the very beginning. We're not stretching feeds or anything like that. We're just doing every 3 hours. They would feed, have some awake time and go down to sleep. So that feed, awake, sleep pattern is actually really, really useful to know and understand in those early days. Not in the first 6 weeks, for example, but later on when you're trying to establish a routine. If you can remember, feed them, then keep them awake for a little bit and then get them to sleep, that will really, really help with them learning to settle, okay, and learning to settle on their own. Now, again, with the whole self-settling thing, there are so many different opinions on it and it is sometimes quite overwhelming. There'll be some friends who go, I had my baby self-settling at 10 weeks and it's the best thing I ever did. And some people say actually babies can't self-settle. I very much believe that very gently, if you work from the beginning, you can actually start to... Oh, questions coming through, great. If you start from the beginning, you can very, very gently get your baby falling asleep on their own, so that by 3 or 4 months, they will be falling asleep beautifully on their own. That doesn't have to involve leaving them to cry. Excuse me a second. So hopefully that's a bit of an overview of kind of sleep in the early stages. I've got loads of questions coming through here. So I'm going to start going through them. And guys, apologies again for the beginning. I don't really know what happened, but we're here now. That's all that matters. Well, okay, let's have a look. So start from the top. Hannah got a 5-month-old who suddenly started waking a lot in the night and struggling to nap. Is this a sleep regression age? Also never got him to nap longer than 45 minutes. It would help if I could speak today. Hannah, what you've probably hit is what's commonly known as the 4-month sleep regression. Okay, and what happens at 4 months is babies become more aware of how they move through their sleep cycles. So a sleep cycle for a baby, you've already said it in your message, is around about 45 minutes. So they come into light sleep, then they come into deep sleep, then they come back into light sleep again. And if they are sort of 2-3 months, they'll probably just keep going around in those cycles, and they're really not that defined at that age. Once they hit somewhere between 3.5 and 4.5 months, so Hannah, with your 5-month-old, I'm guessing this is what's happened for you, they start to become a lot more aware of how they fall to sleep and also how they transition through sleep cycles. So probably, Hannah, what's happened is you've hit the 4-month sleep regression. Now, it's called a sleep regression. It's not really a regression. It's just a developmental jump. It's their brain developing and changing for the better. It's not regressing, it's progressing, but we call it the 4-month sleep regression. I don't really know why. It's just everyone calls it that. So we'll go with that. Suddenly started waking a lot in the night. Yeah, so what's happening is before he was able to sort of link his cycles and just go through, and now he's stopped doing that. What I would say at 5 months, Hannah, would be really good to look at is, can he go down on his own? Okay, and if he can't go down on his own, it's more likely to get this sort of nighttime waking and short sleep cycles or short naps in the daytime. So it might be a really good age to start getting him to link his cycles and looking at basically allowing him to settle himself, rather than relying on something that you're doing or pushing in a pram or, let's say, rocking or giving him a dummy or something like that. Now, all of those things are totally fine if you guys are happy doing them. And she says here he's waking quite a lot at night time. So if the baby is doing those things at night time and you're kind of just muddling on through and you're happy, then that's not an issue. They're only an issue if, Hannah, you're now saying to me, actually, do you know what, Heidi, I'm so exhausted and I can't do this any longer. I think it's really difficult that, like I said, there are different opinions, but some people believe that babies just don't sleep and that's just what they do and it's normal and you just have to survive those first 2 years. My view is that babies can sleep. Sometimes we just have to help teach them how, okay? Much like with breastfeeding, not all babies come out being able to totally breastfeed. Sometimes they need a bit of help and support and you need to sort of teach them a little bit, and it's the same with sleep. So, Hannah, I would look at self-settling. I would look at maybe awake times too. So awake times are key, and I haven't covered those yet, but awake times are basically periods of time. I call them awake windows, from when your baby wakes up from their nap to when they go down for another nap or when they go down to bed. So it's a period of time. It could be an hour, it could be 2 hours. For each age baby, there will be a different awake window. So for Hannah, for 5 months, I would go 1 hour and 45 to 2 hours maximum. So if your little boy is awake for any longer than that, he's unlikely to settle well. He's more likely to wake because he'll be overtired. He's also less likely to link his sleep cycles. So it's not just can they settle themselves, it's also looking at what's their routine in the daytime like, and maybe starting to implement some kind of routine that works around their awake windows. Now, obviously I can't sit here and give you everyone individual awake windows, but what I would say is hop on over to my, when we finished I'll give you the link, but hop on over to my baby sleep course because everything is included in that. The awake windows, the routines, the methods for teaching them to settle themselves, and there's a 20% discount for the baby show as well today. So there we go. Let me come on to another question. Let me just check the time. I can't see on my phone. So I've got a couple here coming up saying you've got 5-month-olds who slept well until 4 months and is now waking a lot in the night. So I'm covering most of the same questions here. Another 4-month-old who's waking lots. Let's see, any tips on how to get them to sleep, back to sleep in the middle of the night without that same routine? So without, I'm guessing you mean without the bath and the bedtime routine. So at night time, once they've had a feed, you can just put them down. You don't have to wake them up. So there's the difference. For naps, ideally, yes, absolutely. We want to start them going down to sleep, awake to asleep on their own if possible, and in the evening. But during the night time, actually, it's totally fine for them to have a nice feed, fill them up, hold them on your shoulder, wind them and put them back down. They don't have to be going down in the middle of the night awake. So don't worry about that. I have that as a question a lot, actually. Lots of my parents often say to me, oh, but Heidi, does that mean I have to sing them a song and do a story in the middle of the night? You absolutely don't. You just have to wind them well and put them back down. Wind is a huge factor in sleep, by the way, particularly with your smaller babies up until about 5 months, 6 months of age. So really wind your babies properly and really spend time researching how to wind your babies, because it is one of those things that can really wake them up, both at night time and actually more so in the daytime. So if you're trying to get your baby to link sleep cycles, sometimes it's wind that's stopping them. So just bear that in mind. Let's do a 10-month-old. We haven't spoken a huge amount about older babies' sleep. So 10-month-old, when do you drop the morning nap and only have one long nap at lunchtime? So you would drop the morning nap, Serena, somewhere between 12 months and 18 months. I would say to you about the morning nap, hold on to it for as long as you can. Not just because it's a nice time to have a shower, but also because ultimately, if your baby gets overtired and you drop the morning nap before they're ready, you're going to end up with early waking, okay? So if a baby's overtired and goes to bed tired, let's say at 7 p.m, they're much more likely to wake at 5, 6 than if they go to bed well rested. So I'm very much a believer of sleep breeds sleep, and the dropping a nap is one of the last things I would ever really want to do if baby wasn't sleeping well. Sometimes you do have to do it, but I would say somewhere between 12 and 18 months. Signs that they're ready to drop that nap will include things like not going down at lunchtime, shorter lunchtime naps, maybe early morning waking as well. So if you're seeing those signs and you're thinking that it's becoming too much of a long morning nap, then you can start transitioning just to the one nap. But yeah, somewhere between 12 and 18 months, but I would kind of, yeah, do that as late as possible if you can. If you want to know about dropping the morning nap, I cover that on my online toddler sleep course, because toddlers obviously are classed from 12 months up. So my toddler sleep course covers from a year, 12 months through to 3 years. Let's do, I think we've got 3 minutes. One more. Let's see, goodness me. Early morning waking I've spoken about. Right, I've been feeding my daughter to sleep and she has trouble sleeping. How do I move to feed, play, sleep? So what you would do, I don't know how old your daughter is, Patricia, but what I would say you can do, first thing you can do is just try and feed in another room that's not related to the bedroom. So let's say at the moment you're feeding to sleep in the bedroom, try and do the feed in a different room and then carry baby through to the bedroom and see if that helps, because sometimes it's as easy as that and sometimes that will just solve the feeding to sleep. And that all works really, really well. If that's not working, you could still do the feed in the bedroom, but just feed until your baby is a bit less drowsy than they normally are. So start taking baby off before they get too drowsy. Things like talk to them a little bit. And ultimately, if that doesn't work and they're still going down really sleepy and you've tried to just put them down drowsy, but that's not working, then what you can do is feed them, talk to them, but then sit them up and sit your baby up, your daughter, and maybe read her a little book, and maybe sing her a little song and try and comfort her in another way. So you might change up feeding to sleep for maybe rocking to sleep for 5 days or so and see how that goes. And then you might try maybe patting to sleep, putting your hand on and patting her. Patricia, I don't know how old your daughter is, but there are many, many different sleep methods that you can use to teach her to settle rather than feed to sleep. And if I was going to work one-on-one with you, I'd go through basically what is your parenting style? How do you feel about teaching her to settle herself? And if you're happy to do it, what kind of approach do we go for? So yeah, just to reassure everyone really that if you want to sort of break an association of, for example, feeding to sleep, because you want to, not because I'm saying you have to at all. Like I said, everyone's different and it's totally okay for that to happen if you're happy with it. If you do want to move away from it, it would be thinking about what sort of approach you want to go for, how old your baby is. That's really, really important to take into account, obviously, because really small babies will just naturally fall to sleep feeding anyway, and that's really normal in those first few months. And yeah, basically I sort of can't go into any more details. I've only got 1 minute left, but have a look at my baby sleep course, like I said, because that might be really, really helpful for you. I've literally got 30 seconds to go. I'm really sorry that I had that interruption at the beginning where I don't know what happened. My laptop went off or something like that. That is the beauty of lives, isn't it? They sometimes do go wrong, and it's typical for me. It went wrong this week because I've had all sorts of email issues. Anyway, so my name, for those of you that didn't get the beginning, is Heidi. I am the parent and baby coach, and you can hop over to Instagram and follow me. It's at the parent and baby coach, and that will take you to my profile. Got links for my online courses there. I do loads and loads of Q&As. If any of you have got like refluxy babies, I specialise in baby reflux, CMPI, CMPA, that sort of thing. So head over to my profile, and there is a baby show offer on my sleep courses. So if you can find the post in the baby show feed, there's a 20% discount off my sleep courses until I think it's tomorrow at 5 o'clock. So I hope that's been helpful. I'm just going to flick down to the bottom here. I'm sorry I haven't managed to answer all of your questions, but I will promise you is that if you come over and follow me on Instagram, I'll do another Q&A this week and I'll try and answer some more of these for you. So if you do that, hopefully I'll answer your question then. And like I said, yeah, do get in touch if you want to work with me one-on-one or get a course. Right, thank you so much. I better go because there's someone else coming on now, but have a wonderful evening. I hope you get some good sleep tonight from your babies, and best of luck. What was the Instagram name? It's The Parent and Baby Coach. Okay guys, take care. Thanks for having me. Bye bye.